Hello, everybody. Welcome back again to the Planet Film Network. I am one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
I'm your other host, TJ Cornwell, and welcome back to Planet Film Live. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. We're going to be talking about Ted Lasso finale that aired last week. We're going to be talking about Chris Hemsworth's comments on the MCU, or his movie Thor. And we're also going to be giving our review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Absolutely.
Now, real quick, just to loop in on Spider-Man real quick. Now, that's just not a part. They're not doing part 1 and part 2 anymore. It's like their own titles, correct? For
Correct.
this movie and the
Yeah,
sequel.
the next one is Beyond.
Got it. All right. So as we do basically every week, we're gonna start off with what we've been watching lately. So do you want to start, Sean, or do you want me to go?
I will. Sorry, I'm just trying to turn.
There you go.
Quick iPad update. Love it. Absolutely love it. Always not happy that you can't do. Maybe you can actually tell me.
I probably could, yeah.
I can't tell. There's no way to do notification sound separate from media sound.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Notification sound from media sound.
Like to split the volume?
Like a mixer type thingy?
Yeah, like on my phone. Nice little Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Like on my phone, I hit these 3 little dots here,
Mm-hmm.
and I can split it up.
Oh,
There's no that?
no. You're asking too much
Damn.
there. Asking too much.
Well, I saw
The only-
you guys, or I guess we finally got PDFs on Apple, I guess.
Yeah,
which is
PDFs
nice.
were def. I've used
I
PDFs.
think
I
it was
feel
the-
like I could be wrong.
Oh, Danielle says I gotta crank that mic up. All right.
But what was I saying? The only thing that I could think of, and I could be completely wrong, but
Hopefully that's better.
obviously you have like a ringer tab or whatever on your iPad that you can switch on and off. So from what I understand from using, although always having it off that I do, if you have it on, then you're going to get notification alerts. So, but if you have it off,
Oh,
then
I see. Okay.
you won't get like any of that noise. But there is like you have the volume here. I don't know if you could see.
I can see you on
Probably won't
Discord.
focus, but
Yeah.
But this is the volume right here. But then if you click it like that, that's the ringer volume. So there might be a difference there, I think.
So I might be able to like lock out the notification sound. This is exactly what everybody tuned in for. But thank you for being my what did they call it? The Dream Team? What do they call it at the Apple Store?
Genius
My
bar.
Genius Bar. Thank you for being
Yeah.
Genius Bar. That's what they should call the iPad, the Genius Bar. Apple aside, although if TJ wants to, we might talk about some of their shenanigans that they announced this week. But quick disclaimer at the top, if you can't already tell, I am extremely sick right now. Sore throat, scratchy throat, and clogged nose. So if you hear some sniffles or weirdness or cough, I apologize. But I'm going to try and power through it. I got a lot of water in front of me, so hopefully we should be good to go. That being said, I will go first on what we have been watching. Obviously, I went and I watched Spider-Verse, as we both did. Gosh, I can never remember how long it's been. It's the 6th. So I did talk about You Hurt My Feelings last week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and saw Across the Spider-Verse, obviously. But then at home, I watched a couple other things. Number 1 being I watched Spectre. So I went through and I finally finished watching through all of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, which obviously a couple months ago, maybe even a year ago at this point, probably closer to when No Time to Die came out. Obviously, you were making your way through all the James Bonds and was very big on No Time to Die and everything like that. I had seen parts of No Time to Die from when I was working there, but I had never seen Spectre, and I had not seen Skyfall since like 2012 when I watched it, and I talked about Skyfall a couple weeks ago. Spectre, I'll just touch on briefly here. It was like Skyfall with all the air sucked out of the room. Like, I don't know what it was. It was the same cinematographer. It was Roger Deakins. Sam Mendes, obviously largely the same cast carrying over as it
Hmm.
does with every movie. And then you have great newcomers like Dave Bautista, Christoph Waltz, uh, Leah Seydoux, who I do think that Leah Seydoux is a fantastic addition as Madeline to these movies. And I think she particularly shines in No Time to Die. But she is a solid, great part of Spectre as well. It just didn't have the juice, man. I don't know.
Hmm.
It was weird, and I know that's not um, a minority opinion. A lot of people felt that way. It's just a kind of weird case study that almost the entire creative team carried over, and it just didn't have that spark. Maybe it was Judi Dench's M. I don't know. I mean, she's such a prevalent part of Skyfall, and to have her removed, growing pains with Ray Fiennes. I don't know, but I really love Ray Fiennes as Mallory, and then as the new M.
Uh,
So transitioning over, the day after that, I watched No Time to Die in its full, which again, just like Skyfall was very M focused, No Time to Die is very M focused as well, because M has been up to some no good deeds with spying
hmm.
on the public, and developing some uh, microscopic nanobot technology,
Hmm.
which is never a good thing in any medium. But I love No Time to Die. Kari Joji Fukunaga was absolutely incredible. I know it was, I believe, the first time an American directed a James Bond movie. I believe, because that was the movie that it was gonna be Danny Boyle, then it was gonna possibly be Sam Mendes again. Went through like 4 or 5 directors before they finally settled on Carrie. And I thought it was fantastic. I thought the emotion, obviously the emotion with the end.
Hmm.
I guess I won't spoil the end of that movie, because it is still only 1 or 2 years old. But the emotions at the end, everything with Madeline, the kind of ups and downs, a lot of twists and turns that I didn't see coming. Slight spoilers for the very beginning of the movie. There's a 5-year time jump, Endgame style, that I really was
Hmm.
not expecting. I was like, all right, what's gonna happen next? And then it just went boom, 5 years later, and I was like, oh crap. Lashana Lynch, who I love in anything, is fantastic as the new 007. Uh, just, and of course, again, this is not minority opinion on any of this, but Ana de Armas, for the 15 minutes that she's in it, is fantastic. But the person that I don't see talked enough about with No Time to Die, who is pivotal to the plot, but maybe not talked about as much in reviews, is Jeffrey Wright as Felix Leiter coming back.
Hmm.
You get him referenced in Skyfall and referenced in Spectre, but it's not since Quantum that we've actually seen Felix. And again, I don't want to go into deep spoilers on the movie in case people haven't seen it, but that kind of Felix Leiter CIA James Bond MI6 dynamic, I think, is really really great, and kind of seeing really how deep that relationship goes, because Judi Dench's M is gone, and James is super attached to like Moneypenny and Tanner and Mallory even, but Felix is really the last one from his earliest days, that is still with him. That he's
Hmm.
still in contact with, or even that is still alive. Even Q, obviously, I didn't mention it all yet. Ben Winshaw's Q, fantastic in both of these movies, especially in No Time to Die. Obviously, the emotions as well as the humor and everything like that. How can you not love Paddington? But yeah, really love No Time to Die. And then that just absolutely emotional kind of crescendo of an ending, literally. And then kind of how the movie actually ends with, this scene of Madeline and everything like that, I thought was excellent. So really, really love No Time to Die. And then the last thing that I won't review, I'll just say I finally watched a movie that I have always wanted to see, and I borrowed my friend's Criterion Collection version of it, and that is The Last Temptation of Christ. Uh,
Oh yeah. Huh?
Absolutely fantastic. Very, very hard gear shift from James Bond, but absolutely fantastic movie. But what have you been watching?
Uh, haven't been watching much. So obviously I saw Spider-Man. Saw that on Sunday. Um, been trying to watch Succession as well. Um, we're not trying. Well, yeah, I guess trying. I haven't made it as far as I would have liked. I think last week I said, by this time today, I might have been done.
Yeah,
Not close to being done. I think I'm on season 3, episode 5. I want to say
that's still pretty far though.
still pretty far. Yeah, yeah.
You're
And
basically right now where I caught up with the show the first time I watched it, like the beginning,
okay,
middle of season 3.
yeah. I need to let me look real quick just on IMDb a little look back at some of the episodes just to jog my memory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh yes, okay. So or maybe it's episode 3. I forget. Um, but again, so far so good. Obviously season 3, Kendall is unhinged so far. Playing rape me during the Shiv introduction conference as president. That was a little much. I felt very
Yeah.
bad in that moment for her, even though, again, as we will say, and I will keep saying, they're all terrible people. But I do have moments of feeling bad for them. And
Is
Kendall
that is that this
he's
episode where like Carl and Frank are like stalling for time and stuff?
um
Like they're both up at the podium.
no, I don't think so.
Okay, never mind.
I could be wrong. Um, and so that happens. But Kendall is operating under I don't. Does he like forget? Maybe he just doesn't believe that his dad would do it, that Logan would do it. But does he forget that he about what he did? Does he like? I feel like sometimes he just doesn't like it. Just like escapes his mind. Danielle, if you're watching, I would probably stop watching for now.
I
Just
mean,
in
do you?
case
I mean,
something
we could
slips out.
probably
But
keep. We could probably avoid that. I mean, do you think Logan would? Like you
I don't.
personally, do you think he would?
I don't think so because I think it would come back on. Although they have these ways of spinning things that are just like I would never thought of that, but I really don't think so. Just because, like I said, like I just don't think then people would be like, "So you covered it up?" You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't
Yeah.
that question be posed? And I get obviously he controls the media and stuff like that, but I feel like that would be a question that was posed at some point, or even when Kendall comes in and everybody's like, oh, he's coming in and he's in the office and the security guard comes in and he's just like he's standing in the doorway and it slowly pans up. You're like, who is that? And he comes in, he just like looks him in the face. He goes, I know you. And I was like, what does that mean? I was like, is that what he's referring to? Like, hey, don't overstep yourself or you're going down.
Are you
The
talking
ship's
about?
going down. You're
I
going
need
down
you
with
to
it.
fill me in. Are you talking about Colin? Like, are you talking about like Logan's body man?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. He's one of the people
Colin's.
that I feel like
There's
is
plays to be made. You know. I mean,
okay. Perfect. Yeah,
there's
exactly.
no insignificant cog in this
Uh,
machine.
yeah. And one. I think the most recent episode I was watching is Tom is hosting all the advertisers at the office for like a dinner or something.
Oh, okay.
And at one point towards the end of the episode, it's when a certain government entity shows up at the door, and
Yeah.
and Tom goes, just to let everybody know that we are currently being raided. So if anybody's wondering what the quotient, that's what that is.
Oh my
I was
God.
like, oh man, I feel so bad for him. And then what he's talking about, he's like, I think Shiv like comes home or whatever, and they're talking on the couch, and he's like, what if I could be like the punching bag, like I could be the fall guy. I was like, oh, you don't have to do that, Tom. Like I get
Have
it.
you gotten to the boat?
Yeah, the boat was season 2.
Oh shit! Like,
Yeah,
thank you.
unless
for the
they go on the
chicken?
boat again. Yeah, okay, maybe the chicken thing. I still don't know what that is.
Listen, man.
But maybe unless I missed it, because when they were on the boat, they're
That's
like
right.
watching
I forgot.
TV,
That's
and
the
then
season 2 finale.
yeah. So was that? Are we talking? Am I talking about the same thing?
Yeah, I was talking. Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
okay.
boat. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I saw him on the boat. But yeah,
What are
I'm
Greg's sprinkles?
great. I love that part of Greg. The other or I think 2 episodes ago, uh, Kendall's throwing this party or whatever, and 2 things that Greg has done so far this season that I just found very funny, but again I feel bad, is the one when they're in Rava's apartment and it's what's the other like media entity that they were
Pierce.
trying to buy. Yeah. What's the girl's name? What's her name
Oh,
again?
Naomi Pierce.
Naomi. Yeah. And Greg like pops this wine bottle that was like given to Rava by her grandfather, and it was like her last memory of him. And, and she's like getting so mad at him. He's like, they just said that I was told to just pop this bottle of wine. he's like I don't know what to do. And then I think later in that episode he's talking to like this watch dealer, and the watch guy's like, yeah, it's gonna be like 40K. And Greg's like, well, I thought this was like a gift situation. And the watch guy like turns around to Kendall and he's like, Kendall, are you buying the watch from this guy? And Kendall's like, no, I'm not buying it for him. I just said I'd hook you up. And he's like, and then Greg's like, I don't have $40 or $40,000. And the watch guy was like, well, I don't want it back because you wore it. You have like your whatever you want to call it on it, your germs or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I feel bad for him in some of those parts, and he just has some of those lines that are really funny. But yeah, so far so good.
Can you just shift to your left?
Yeah. Sorry.
There we go. No, you're good.
And I think that's well, actually, just real quick, the other thing I've been watching, is just a lot of Kitchen Nightmare clips on YouTube. I don't know if you've ever been on the Kitchen Nightmare YouTube channel, but whoever runs the account is a great person. They're very good at their job. They take every single clip you've seen before. They're gonna remix it into a different montage video and name the video some crazy thing. But it'll make me click on anything just because, again, the clips are so good and the titles always draw me in as well. But the only reason I brought that up is just because it was announced a few weeks ago that Kitchen Nightmares is coming back finally, which we've already discussed multiple times off camera, which is awesome. They're already filming it from what I've seen, which is awesome. So I'm hoping it comes back. And I'm hoping it's not like, I'm just hoping it lasts longer than like a season. Yeah. Because his previous shows have only gone for, like he had that one where it's 24 hours or whatever, and that lasted maybe 2 seasons.
Yeah. Hotel Hell before that.
Hotel Hell was like 70 episodes though, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
That lasted. But yeah, really excited to see. And I don't know if you ever checked out like the English version, but the ones he did in England and the ones he does in America, the way they are edited is completely like different. It's very funny to see. Because I'm just assuming that in England or just maybe Europe or in general, they don't have the fascination with reality TV maybe that Americans do. Whereas like the USA version is all like these like sound effects and like these quick cuts and making you think like something crazy is happening, and meanwhile like in the English version he's like doing this soft narrative story about how he's going to save this restaurant, and it's very, very funny, the difference. But that's it for me. That's all I've been watching.
Nice. Well, I want to pivot over real quick. I want to get your thoughts on some of these little mini stories here. So first one up, still a rumor at this point, but pretty well substantiated by a couple of different people. We got Jeff Snyder hinting at this. We have also Daniel RPK as well as a couple other people, and then also Discussing Film posting this, that reportedly the Flash's own, the director of the It franchise, Andy Muschietti, is reportedly going to direct James Gunn's new, well, I say James Gunn's new, everything's James Gunn's, but the new Batman, the Brave and the Bold. So obviously, we've got the Flash reviews coming out today. The official embargo dropped. I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes is right now off of the top of my head, but obviously early praise for that movie. I'm sure when more and more people get to see it, it'll middle out. But clearly, Andy Muschietti salvaged something out of this movie to make it an enjoyable movie at the very least. So what are your thoughts on this and him potentially taking over this new iteration of this Batman franchise with Batman the Brave and the Bold, which is going to focus on, yes, Batman, but also the whole Bat family with Damian Wayne and everything else that we already know about this movie, but now seemingly finding its director.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Obviously, like you said, the Flash. Whether you want to believe what those early reviews were or not, which I think again is still 50-50. Seems like again he made a good movie with the Flash, which comes out I think in 2 weeks. But yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So I'd say I'm a fan of Andy Muschietti. I liked it. I didn't like it Chapter 2 as much, but still enjoyed it for what it was.
So you're
I have not
that.
seen,
I love that movie.
Yeah, I have seen or I have not seen Mama. But he's working on Welcome to Derry, which is the prequel that they're doing for HBO. Obviously the Flash, and then apparently I didn't know he was supposed to be directing an Attack on a Titan movie. I'm assuming it's live action. That's in development.
Wow.
I don't know if that ever gets made, but so I wonder where this would fall on that list. Do we see obviously I'm assuming Welcome to Derry is probably maybe going into production pretty soon. I'd have to imagine. Is this before? Again, Attack on Titan seems like it's like a pipe dream to have.
Well, Attack on Titan 2, most likely I'd assume they'd probably want to wait for the show to wrap up, and don't they just keep extending out the final season?
From what I understand, that is what is happening.
So maybe that's something that there'll be time to maybe start up this Batman franchise, then he can dive back into that, then come back over and pick it up or something like that.
Mm-hmm. But I'd assume if you were to do this, that maybe there'd be some. Again, we haven't seen the Flash. Is there maybe some sort of those kind of horror elements or something in that movie? Maybe he carries that over to Batman as well.
Yeah. I think for sure, if you're talking Batman the Brave and the Bold, and you're talking specifically Damian Wayne, I think there's a big chance for a lot more Ra's al Ghul, whatever you want to call him. But I think there's a big chance for Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, the Lazarus Pit. I think there's a lot of potential for horror elements of dealing with resurrection, stuff like that, So I think it could very well go up his alley. But, like you said, with The Flash, we don't really know what, if any, horror elements are in there. So maybe that's just really where he cut his teeth on showing, hey, I have this great horror gear, but I can also really pull off this, fantastical action and superhero drama and stuff like that. So I think I can speak for the both of us. I think we would both be happy with this, not even seeing The Flash yet. So if we go out of The Flash really impressed with what he did, I think this is a great pick. And he seems to be really buddy-buddy with James Gunn, because I think James Gunn realizes, he kind of made a diamond out of a lump of coal, and that's not even just the Ezra Miller situation. That's everything is, hey, we're putting all of this on this movie to try and reboot this universe and try to salvage something out of this. So I think it's a really big task that was asked of him, and it seems like maybe he hit it. All right, let's see here. Next up here, I want to get your thoughts. Captain America. So Captain America 4, we know, has been filming for a while. I don't really know if this announcement from Anthony Mackie signifies the end of principal photography. I mean, if I'm doing the math in my head, it's been filming for about 2 months at this point, so it's possible that this is the end of filming. But that being said, we did get a rather big update in terms of Captain America 4. So about a week and a half ago, we got some really blurry, really bad images of Anthony Mackie in a new version of the Captain America suit, which I don't think surprised many people. Marvel always gives their heroes new suits on their new movies. But now Anthony Mackie posted this new set picture just showing the side profile of his new Captain America suit, as well as him just kind of chumming it up on set with Harrison Ford. And you might just say, well, what a wonderful picture of these two working there. And basically he captioned it saying, you know, in this moment, Harrison was telling me how badass I looked on camera, so that's got to make you feel good. But if you notice the back of the chairs here, which, you know, previously this movie was titled Captain America New World Order.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of different connotations with that term. So I think people were expecting this name to change, and here we have confirmed Captain America 4 will now be called Captain America Brave New World, which I think, while I definitely liked just the ring of Captain America New World Order, because it sounds a little more menacing.
It does, yeah.
But I understand maybe a little too menacing in the real world implications, which is totally fair. But I do think that Brave New World kind of still conveys that same tone, that, like, you know, this is not just a new Captain America starting out on his journey, but with what is Ross up to? What is this Serpent Society doing? What is Val's true intentions? You know, we know there is so much Hulk going on in this movie, with almost the entire cast of the Incredible Hulk coming back, obviously without William Hurt, unfortunately, and without Edward Norton. But we know there was a ton of Hulk stuff going on in this. So, I don't know, Brave New World, World War Hulk, I don't know. What are your thoughts on all of this? Either way, this signifies that I think for sure filming is either wrapped or coming to a close on this movie. But what are your thoughts on this? And also, I'll throw you in here. Is changing a title technically writing? I don't know. What do you think? And what do you think about the new suit?
I'd imagine if they changed the name, I feel like it probably would have been a while ago. That's, you know, before, like, if if you were to count it as writing, yeah, I'd assume it was a while. Exactly, I'm assuming it was a while ago. But no, I'm with you on the whole New World Order thing. I think it obviously is more menacing title, but it just kind of, I don't know. I always felt like it kind of conveyed like something kind of, I don't know. It just never really. It hit me in like a right way and a wrong way, almost. I don't know what it was. And it just feels like yesterday that Falcon Winter Soldier ended. Was that 2020 or 2021? 2021. Yeah, it feels like it was like literally yesterday that show was done, and we got him in like the full suit, Anthony Mackie and all that stuff. But no, like, I'm really excited for this movie. I'm excited Harrison Ford be taking over in that role. It's really cool to see him join the MCU. And like you said,
I should specify too, I forgot, this is not in this tweet, but I just remembered his Instagram post. He specifically said, "Such a pleasure working with Harrison day after day. Can't wait to do it all again." So he also threw that in there. So is that potentially Thunderbolts? Is that potentially Cap being in Thunderbolts? Or is that potentially we're going to get the ball rolling on a Cap 5 even faster than we thought? I don't know. A lot to it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see too, just kind of, again, go back to the whole kind of, we're pulling back on content, we're not going to, release things as much, and I'm hoping, again, that also just brings into the whole kind of cramming the movie with things that just to set up a new thing. Again, that was one of my issues, and a lot of people's issues, I feel like, with Black Panther was like, and it's not just Black Panther, there was, shows and movies that did the same thing, where, we had, obviously Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character and Martin Freeman's character that were just kind of like, it's like, okay, why are they in this? We're just kind of they're in here just to set up the next thing, and I'm hoping that we start to see maybe those changes come in this movie. And what's the next movie? I know obviously we have Secret Invasion, but
like our
Marvels,
next movie
right?
coming up, or the next movie after this? Yeah, the Marvels.
The Marvels, right? Maybe we start to see it then, because that we know that got pushed as well. So
I think it's... Is it the Marvels and then this?
That's what I was wondering.
There
Is
can't-
this
that can't
is
be it.
this
There's
already
gotta be
coming out?
something
I
in
feel like
between,
this
yeah.
was like one of those like, oh, it's gonna come out like before like Kang Dynasty or something. Like I always felt like this was like way off.
Um. Oh my god.
I'd have to imagine it's probably close to probably like maybe late 2024 or mid.
Wow. Yeah. No, it is. In terms of movies, yeah, it's the Marvels and then this, because
Oh wow.
in between that, we obviously Secret Invasion starts later this month. Which,
Mhm.
while I'm looking at this, I want to know your thoughts. Do you think we get Ross in Secret Invasion? I think we do. And by Ross, I mean full on Harrison Ford taking over that role, showing
Mhm.
himself in Secret Invasion. I think there's a very high chance that we get him sooner rather than later. So obviously we got Secret Invasion, but then the Marvels on November 10th. And then in between the Marvels and Captain America Brand New World, which is May 3rd, 2024, we have Echo, Loki Season 2, Ironheart, Agatha,
Mhm.
What If Season 2, and Daredevil Born Again is currently slated for early spring 2024. So, and then actually Thunderbolts... Wow, I'll be interested to know if these dates still hold, but Thunderbolts is actually slated to come out just 2 months after this movie. So it sounds
Oh,
like
I don't
those
know if that's
movies...
gonna happen.
Yeah, obviously we know that Thunderbolts is going to obviously
Yeah.
include Thunderbolt Ross, but I'll be interested to know really how linked these two movies are, and if that's what Anthony Mackie meant by can't wait to do it all over again, because we know that
Mhm.
Thunderbolts has obviously been delayed due to the writer's strike, whereas Captain America has not been. But, you know, we'll get into that in just a minute here. But a lot of interesting stuff with Captain America 4, but I think you gotta get, just like any change here, I think we'll you know, shake off the kind of dust and get used to the changes being made and everything like that. But
Mhm.
I really can't wait for this movie, because I know, say what you will about Falcon and Winter Soldier, about some of the CGI and stuff in that show, but looking back, I really, really enjoyed overall that series, and specifically Sam becoming Captain America. All right, so let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about this Chris Hemsworth stuff.
Mhm.
So Chris Hemsworth basically had this big spread with GQ magazine, because he has obviously Jake Extraction 2 coming out, aka Extraction 2. But he really dished on a lot of his time in the MCU and where he's kind of at with it, and specifically Thor: Love and Thunder, and actually touched a little bit on Quantumania and Wakanda Forever as well. But basically, overall, just saying, you know, hey, I heard the criticism about Thor 4. I heard it from... He talked about hearing it from his kids' friends at their
Yep.
slumber parties.
Mhm.
Just saying that basically... We thought this one had too much humor. The action was cool, but the VFX weren't good. They would cringe and laugh equally at it. But then
Ouch.
he himself, you know, talked about something that I think everybody can relate to, and I think something that
Mhm.
we lose perspective on with these movies and different movies is when you're inside of it, even in your own life, when you're doing something at work, when you're working on a project, when you're inside of it, it's hard to have that perspective of how other people or a specific other person is going to view it. And he talked about how, you know, when you're inside of it, I think we just had too much fun, let it run away from us, let it be a little too silly. And then when the final product came together, you know, the final product ended up being too silly. And then he kind of talked about, in general, where Marvel is at, where he said that Wakanda Forever was really, really cool, and he loved that he didn't have a chance to see Quantumania, but that he said, you know, from promotional material and talking
Mhm.
to Paul Rudd and everything like that, and this is Chris Hemsworth saying this, that he said he was confused why they were taking this Ant-Man franchise, which was always this smaller, intimate, you know, kind of interesting franchise, and making it this huge movie. And he specifically says, you know, Ant-Man 3 became all about, the end of the universe, but he goes, well, that's the same thing that it's been for the last 24 movies. So what makes this movie independent and different and everything like that? So what are your thoughts on Hemsworth? But then also maintaining in all of this, that he's not done with Thor. He's going to keep that gear going and everything like that. But what are your thoughts on kind of all of his discussion of everything Marvel here?
Yeah, I think like everybody, a lot of people say, nobody sets out to make a bad movie, and I wouldn't say like Thor: Love and Thunder was bad, but it was just I think a step down than what people are expecting, especially coming off Ragnarok, which basically rejuvenated the character and Thor, and Chris Hemsworth. I think he said that as well. So to hear like your kids' friends like making fun of the movie and stuff like that, I think that that does give either an actor or a director or anybody involved with it maybe a little bit more perspective on what they're making. But I'm sure like in the moment, again, I can't really speak to this because I've never made a movie or anything in my life. I'm sure in the moment, you're having those discussions of like whether you're writing the script or while you're on set or anything like that, where certain beats of comedy and different emotions will hit and where things don't necessarily work as well, and then you try and kind of form those kind of moments throughout the story and make sure everything kind of comes off correctly. And I think again, one of the biggest critiques of Love and Thunder was Taika kind of just like went with full Taika with Love and Thunder, whereas Ragnarok it was a little bit more. It was still funny, but it was the right moment, like the right beats, that I think worked well. And that was the CG awesome in Love and Thunder. No, but a lot of MCU movies lately, the CG hasn't been as great, and we also know that there's these VFX houses coming out saying we don't. Marvel will give you this stuff to do, and they won't give you enough time, and if you say no, then you're basically like blacklisted from like working on the movies anymore, or so it's a whole thing, and I think it definitely gives you some perspective, from working on the movie, but like I said, nobody sets out to make a bad movie. So it's trying to find that balance, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think really the main thing is like you said, nobody sets out to make a bad movie, and I think he talks really good about how it's just about that perspective about when you're kind of in the belly of the beast, it's hard to gauge how it's going to come out in the end.
Right.
And I think that that's just something that he's going to take with him to the next one. And he said before that if he comes back to Thor, he wants it to be a different tone. He wants it to be a different vibe. And I think that that's probably what we'll see the next time we see that character. All right, here. So I am actively fighting for my life against this cold.
I see that. Yeah.
So we're gonna speed up through some of these news things. The last bit of news that I just want to talk about is a little bit of Ahsoka talk. Man, I'm really trying here.
All right.
So first off, we got this picture of obviously Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, but one of our better looks, even though it's kind of out of focus, one of our better looks at Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera Syndulla. And then we also have this image, which has been, really kind of lighting up the internet, of an Inquisitor. And it says in the Empire Magazine article, it points out how strange it is that an Inquisitor is even in this show, considering that it takes place, 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So kind of what are your thoughts on some of these images? Where do we think this Inquisitor kind of lands in what this story is trying to tell, and who do we maybe think this is, or do we think it's just some random Inquisitor, or why is an Inquisitor needed in this story? But also, I think this Inquisitor looks
Well,
fantastic
first
in
thing,
live action.
I was more struck with the Inquisitor about the kind of new, like kind of equipment they're wearing. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. I could be wrong. It reminds me, whenever I see a helmet like that, it always reminds me of the knight in. Is it
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter? Yes. Is it Chamber or is that Sorcerer's? I forget.
Sorcerer's Stone.
Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah,
when
100%.
the knight has like the same exact kind of face mask type thing. And that's exactly what I thought when I saw this. I don't know who it would be, but I think it's probably some sort of, maybe it's like somebody who is like carrying on what the Inquisitors were even after they're gone. Something like that. Again, I think, you had brought up to me one time that it could be Ezra. I feel like that it's a possibility.
Go
I
full
think because
Luke
they're looking to
Skywalker as
introduce
Kylo
him,
Ren.
obviously. Yeah. But that'd be a big swing, I bet, for a lot of people. So that'd be interesting. That other picture looked like, well, I was trying to figure out where they were just based on the background.
Oh, right,
Do you have
yeah.
any ideas?
Well, this looks like maybe that. Let me just pull it up here. This here makes it look almost like that area in the trailer where she breaks the glass and then jumps through it. So I'm thinking maybe they're in that area still.
Oh, okay,
From the trailer, like that ship, whether it's a Star Destroyer or a Venator or what it might be. I think maybe it could be that. All right.
Survive.
I know. I'm trying. So let's talk some Ted Lasso. So obviously, Ted Lasso season 3. Is it the end of the series? Is it the end of everything Ted Lasso? Is there room for a spinoff? What did we think of the finale? But first, TJ, let us know. Well, first of all, full spoilers ahead for Ted Lasso season 3 and the finale as well. But fill us in on kind of what went down in this finale and everything, so that I can catch my breath.
Man, what didn't go on in this finale? Jeez. A lot of wrapping up that we did. I don't even know where to start. We got Jamie. Oh my God, what did he do? Oh yeah, Jamie and Roy like kind of fighting over Keeley. We had I almost said Wrexham. Richmond coming in, I think second, I want to say.
Yep.
In the Premier League, I want to say. Which again, if they would have won it, that would have been. I mean, even the fact that they're in second is crazy. Anyway, we had Ted obviously go back home. Again, this is full spoilers, so it came out a week ago. We
Rebecca
had
possibly selling the club.
Rebecca possibly selling the club. We had Rupert going onto the field and pushing his manager over and screaming, and then getting called, I think, a wanker on his way out.
I assume that's a big no-no, right?
Big no. Yeah, no, you don't do that. You don't do that in any sport. Can you imagine an owner coming down to any field and like pushing their coach? That would be crazy. We had obviously Nate come back. And we had the new coaching trio, which rumors of a possible spinoff in that area with Roy, Beard, and Nate. Or not Nate. Was it Nate? Yeah, Nate. And yeah, I think I'm probably missing some things. Just because there was so much. It was an hour, 15 minutes. Yep. There's a lot that happened. I thought the way it started, I literally said, what did I say? I said, "Oh fuck!" I think when that first like shot hit of him coming down into her, and they really, I'm sure like the Rebecca Ted stands were like, "Yes, finally indicated."
Yeah, when it was.
And then real. They were like, "Oh no!" Like I think he said his like something's broken or something at his house, or so he had gas leak. yeah, gas leak or whatever, um, which was very funny. Um, and pretty emotional episode. Was it perfect? No. Did we really wrap things up very quickly? Was the Jamie Roy kind of argument for kids did that really need to make happen or make sense? Not really. But I'd say I was satisfied with the ending. And sad to see the show finish. But I am excited to see if they do any sort of spin-off, which does seem like it's in the cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think a lot of it wrapped up quicker than I wanted it to, which
Yeah.
is not always a great thing to say when, your season 3 had such a long runtime. I mean,
Hmm.
almost every single episode was an hour and 6 minutes, an hour and 9 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes, Uh, so I think particularly things like Roy and Jamie fighting each other over Keeley, I think, which granted, it's all of about 2 minutes of screen time. It's not
Hmm.
like it's this long, protracted, part of the show. Uh, but that being said, did we even need that really just for the conclusion to be, obviously she's not gonna just pick one.
Hmm.
Obviously she's gonna have her own agency and decide if and when she even wants to. But that being said, I think what we did have was good. That being said, the actual end, the actual wrap up of a lot of stuff, I don't know how much I was on board with, how kind of neatly everything fell together, but I did hear somebody say, like, it's a comfort show and it's
Hmm.
a comfort ending,
Yeah.
which I thought was a really, really good way of putting it. But at the same time, it did kind of feel a little too neat. Like,
Yeah.
especially at the very end with Ted, coaching. Like, I'm not. I feel like the message of the show, like, the show kind of muddled its own message at the
Right.
end. Because the whole show is about bettering yourself and moving on and figuring things out. And I get that Ted's version at the end of bettering himself was to realize that he was really, in a sense, running from Henry,
Hmm.
because he didn't want to form that connection. And I feel like kind of touching on the issues with him and his dad really only, 4 or 5 times throughout the entirety of the show. Obviously, they touch on him and his father pretty deeply when they do touch on it, but to only really have that come up 4 or 5 times throughout the whole show, one of them being just really at the end of last week's episode with him and his mother,
Yeah.
uh, it felt a little, not forced, but it felt a little like, is that really where the show was going? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, and I don't know if, I don't really know what the deal is if we're gonna get like a Richmond spinoff, but without Ted. Like, is it really just that like Jason was just done? Like, cause that to me, if they do a Richmond spinoff, that to me is kind of what it feels like. Is that like
Hmm.
Jason just really like wanted to wrap this up for his character.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine too if that's the case, obviously. But it was just very interesting the way that everything kind of fell together, and then Rebecca and the mystery man from Amsterdam being the pilot at the end. It's very, rom-commy and
It
stuff
very,
like that, but
yeah.
it
Oh,
just
I just
felt,
happened to bump into you at the airport. What do you know?
yeah, and specifically his daughter.
His
So it's
daughter,
like,
yeah.
oh, that's what the psychic meant by "you'll be a mother." And it's like, yeah,
Mm.
but then to pay that off, like, literally with seconds left was
Seconds,
like,
yeah.
it felt a little like, again,
And then they're all at
I
the
feel like,
barbecue at the end.
yeah, and again, I feel like forced is too harsh a word. It just
Yeah.
felt a little too, like, easy, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know. But, yeah, I think it was really, really good, overall, but I think for me, the show kind of went, season 1. season 2 and then season 3, and then it just kind of, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm being more negative on this than I truly feel like I am. It just
Hmm.
didn't, I don't know, it just kind of wrapped up in a way that it didn't feel as satisfying as I think that they
Yeah,
thought it was.
I think as well as they really started to kind of build up Ted as well as having these kind of just these smaller issues that were growing. We saw the panic attacks obviously, and I feel like in season 3 that kind of just slowly or maybe quickly just kind of diminished. A lot of people again obviously we've talked about complaining that like they took Ted like out of the show, and didn't really make him a main focus anymore. And another person that was awesome in season 2, would love to have more of her in season 3. She was in episode 1 for 2 seconds. She was in the last episode for a few seconds here and there with her just cheering on her bed. Was Dr. Sharon. She should have been in it. I felt like way more. Um, but and she kind of comes along with that, Ted dealing with whatever he's dealing with.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't, it was a little disappointing in the end. But I'm definitely glad, I'm obviously glad this was a show, very feel good show. And, if they do a Richmond type spinoff, if they do a Richmond like women's team with Rebecca and Keeley at the center of it, I'd watch that.
Hmm.
So I'm excited to see what they could do in this world if they stick with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think too, kind of on that Sharon front, I think one thing of this season that was really, really good, that again, just kind of felt a little swept away at the end was, I
Mm.
think that easily the best addition to the main cast in season 4, or sorry, in season 3 was Trent. Was Trent
Mm-hmm.
becoming
Yep.
an actual member of the office and of the team and writing his book. And I
His book.
like
Yep.
I like that, you know, he had his book and the whole thing of like, it's not about me, it never has been, and then changing the name at the end to the Richmond way. I liked all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then like certain things of like not giving Trent and Ted like a goodbye scene together just felt a little off. Like it just felt like
Mm-hmm.
whoa. We're dealing with all this screen time and we can't find like
Yeah.
just a little second to like kind of pair off some of these goodbyes a little bit more. And then even with Trent, really the only kind of wrap up we got for him was just seeing him at a book signing, and that was pretty much it. But we didn't really
Mm-hmm.
get context on like where he's at, what he's doing, stuff like that. So it just some things I think, like you said, I'm very happy obviously that the show existed. I really liked majority of the show. Just walked away a little you know less than stellar on the
Mm-hmm.
finale, I guess. But yeah, let us know, what did you guys think of the Ted Lasso finale in the comments down below. Let us know, are we totally wrong? Did you guys love every single part of the finale? Did you have issues with the finale like we did? Let us know that and more down below. But if you are joining us just for this Ted Lasso review, thank you guys so much for joining us, and make sure to subscribe down below. All right, so last up here, oh boy, we'll see how long we can last here with my with the back of my throat. But let's talk Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So TJ, Into the Spider-Verse, obviously worldwide phenomenon in 2018. Absolutely fantastic movie, won Best Animated Picture, but really, really grew in estimation over the years, specifically being on Netflix. Obviously, now we know the real world ramifications of this second movie being a hugely successful movie at the box office, unlike the first one was. I mean, the first one made its money back, but it only made about $400 million. This one made
Mm-hmm.
about 200 and something $million in 3 days. So 4 times its opening weekend of the first movie. Uh, where are we joining Miles back in this movie, or maybe not even necessarily Miles, but Gwen, some of the other people. Tell us, kind of where we're at with this movie, and we'll keep it a little spoiler free, and then we'll
Hmm.
dive deep into.
Are you saying where we're
full-on
at, like what
spoilers.
my thoughts were, or where we're at, like
Whatever you
where
want to
we
do.
come back?
Surprise me.
All right. Well, I just want to tell you my overall thoughts before we get
Go
into
for it.
anything. Uh, this was a great movie that um took I will say took a while for me to get into, but once I was into it, once it got me, I was in all the way. I'd say for me, it's maybe two two quarters through. I was finally in. The first quarter for me just didn't completely work. Um, Obviously I enjoyed all the big set pieces, the all the action, the animation, the everything was fantastic. The colors, it looked amazing. The voice acting was awesome. Obviously all the, different little cameos and stuff and hints and nods, and that was all really cool. Um, it just started a bit slow for me. Which I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because I was expecting, that we were going to start off with Miles, and we were going to pick up right where we left off almost. And I was kind of thrown a curveball when we started with Gwen, and we got more of her backstory, which again I did appreciate. It was just, I don't know, it just didn't grab me initially like I really was hoping it would, especially with all these reviews.
Yeah.
So me going in, my expectations are like through the roof. Um, but I didn't, I'm not saying I didn't not like it or anything. I really did enjoy the movie. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited to see where they're going. And like I said, I am now fully in, obviously, after that movie. And it should be really interesting going forward what they're going to do with this universe, because they have so many options. If, do they want to merge it with the MCU in some way, shape, or form? Do they, keep it its own thing, but they're pulling in, uh, you know, pulling in the Andrew Garfield, her Maguire-ness of the universe and stuff like that. Like that, there's just so many different ways I feel like this movie can go, or where this trilogy can go. I'm excited to see what they do. But you know, if I were to say which one I liked more, I would say I liked the first one more still. But this is, second one's not far behind for me. Um, and maybe that's in. I just feel like I'm in such the minority because I feel like everybody like loves this movie. And again, I don't not like it. It's just like it just didn't hit me like I thought it was going to.
Hmm. Well, I gotta say, we have not talked about this at all, or our
Yeah.
thoughts on it. I agree with you on almost everything that you said. I
Wow.
did
Yeah.
not have the problem of the first quarter,
Yeah.
not grabbing me. I was really sucked in from the off, from
Hmm.
really just right at the beginning. Um, but I will say, and I will say to stipulate this. Normally, I like to see a movie, more than one time before we do like a deep dive spoiler review on it and everything like that. I only got a chance to see this one once. I will be seeing it again, but I have only seen it once, and my theatrical experience was really less than stellar. We were in,
Yeah.
kind of a off to the side, really crowded, loud, a lot of kids running around theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, I like to be a little more fully glued and locked in on a movie. So opinion subject to change in terms of like the I kind of been telling everybody at work that like I loved this movie, but that extra gear that the first one had that I was able to lock into, I
Hmm.
didn't lock into it with this one. And so I don't
Hmm.
know if that's because of the movie or because every time there would be an emotional scene, somebody would kick the back of my seat or some kid would
Yeah.
like run past and like go, "Oh my
Yeah.
god." Because that happened quite a bit. But that being said, I do think that it is a fantastic, excellent, amazing movie. But I would still put the first one above it.
Hmm.
I do not think that it is, like the best. Some people are saying it's the best comic book movie ever made, or even the best Spider-Man movie ever made. I don't quite think it is.
Hmm.
But that being said, people have different interpretations of what that possibly means to people is, what does it mean to be a great Spider-Man movie? I personally would say, I loved Far From Home. I'm not saying that Far From Home is better than this movie. I'm just saying I am somebody who I really, really loved Spider-Man Far From Home just because it really felt like a nice middle chapter of Peter's journey, dealing with Mysterio, dealing with all this stuff, and just
Right.
being a nice, Spider-Man adventure. And then obviously I loved No Way Home for everything that movie did and was, but also just the fact that it maintained that balance of people that showed up in that movie showed up for a specific reason, for a story reason, for an important reason, and left a lasting impact, a lasting legacy on both Peter Parker and the movie as a whole. And I think that this movie does that as well with some of the different surprises that there would be in here. That being said, I guess I'll give it my score, which and then we'll go with your score, and then we'll just go into full spoilers here. Which, if you can't tell already, it's going to be a bit of a shorter show here. But I still think this movie is incredible. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Only because the first movie to me is a 5 out of 5.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. So again, I think I gave the first one 4.5, or maybe 5. I might have given the first one 5. So a little bit under, but nothing signifying that it's a bad movie. And something that does affect it for me, which we can get into spoilers here now. It's not a spoiler. It's more of an experience thing. And it did take away from me, and maybe I'll if I see it a second time or when I watch it at home, I'll get more out of it. But I don't know how it was for you, and I've been seeing this problem as well. So it's not just like a me thing or a Danielle and I thing that we're both experienced. This is in the beginning. And maybe again, this is why it was hard for me to get locked in. Was the audio?
Yeah.
I was like, "What the fuck is she saying? I can't."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What, Gwen? Speak up, please." Haley, can we boost your mic a little bit? Like, what is that? And then, obviously, love Daniel Kaluuya. I love his character, but I couldn't understand a word he was saying. I was like, I need subtitles for this, and he's going full English accent, and I'm like, what is going on? So I'll be very interested to see, watching it at home specifically, putting those subtitles on, pausing, raising the volume. What are we saying? Am I more locked in now than I was in the theater? Because I literally could not understand what was going on.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I definitely had those audio issues too. I thought, for basically all of it, especially the Gwen stuff at the beginning, I really thought that it was just, a choice because, again, we're in full spoiler territory for this film. So it opens with Gwen drumming as in part of her band. A very short-lived band. So I just kind of took it as Gwen is just drumming louder and louder and louder and louder, and the movie was kind of purposely drowning out her audio.
Right.
Now, judging by everyone's reaction, that clearly was not the intention. But that's just kind of the way that I took it and just rolled with it, because she does. She just kind of slowly gets more and more drowned out. That's really what it was that a lot of the audio just sounded drowned out by a lot of the other things, kind of the Tenet situation. And I think with Spider-Punk as well, also a little bit of Spider-Man India, I felt like he was a little hard to hear at times too, with some of his lines.
I'd agree with that.
But it's weird. Not really an issue with Miles or Miguel or any of the other really major characters. It was really mainly Gwen at the very beginning of the movie, but a couple other times throughout the film as well. But I did have that issue as well. So that on top of my theater being a very, very distracting, I think definitely played a part. So I'm excited to get a chance to go at a slightly less crowded time and place, to hopefully hear everything better, see everything better, and kind of take in the movie better. But that being said, that out of the way, let's get into it. So we'll just kind of jump around, talk about whatever we want to talk about. How did you feel about the ending of this movie? Let's just jump right to the end here. Uh, Obviously, Miles getting stuck in the wrong universe, being
Hmm.
confronted by the kind of evil version of himself as the Prowler. Now, I want to ask you specifically, how did you feel about that? But did you or Danielle, did you catch on before that happened? Because there are a fair amount of hints and breadcrumbs that things were wrong. But kind of, how did that whole kind of reveal hit you that he is stranded in this universe that is not his own?
So I did have an inclination that he was in the wrong universe, and that's literally just because of it was very dreary.
Yeah.
Just his surroundings. It was raining and dark and everything. I was like, this doesn't look like the world, the universe we came from. Um, I didn't put together, I think, until maybe the very last moment. When he is tied up on the punching bag, that I was like, oh, okay, and Uncle Aaron is not, dressed as the Prowler in that universe. I'm thinking to myself, oh, maybe Miles is the Prowler, and then obviously we get the reveal, which again was really cool, great way to end the movie. Um, but I didn't really catch on, honestly. I had, again, a few hints. Like I was like, this world looks very different. And obviously, we had it was a little weird too, when he tells his mom or who he thinks is his mom in his world that he is Spider-Man, and she kind of just has like
A
this like
non-reaction.
a non-reaction just because there's no Spider-Man, she
Yeah.
doesn't know what that is. Um and then it was really cool to see just them kind of slowly peel the layers back. I'm sure I haven't seen like any of the oh, there was this hint and then that hint and then that hint, I don't know if you know any of them off the top of your head, but yeah, I just thought it was a really cool reveal. Really excited again to see what happens and how they find him because right now I don't think they really know where he is. I don't know what if they maybe they assume like, oh, maybe it's the universe that the spider that bit him
Came from.
came
Yeah.
from. That's another thing real quick. I thought they did an awesome job of explaining
The multiverse.
all this stuff. I feel like it's a lot to take in. And I thought, having Oscar Isaac, explain this whole thing and all this stuff. I thought they did a really good job with that in the different events. They even talk about the canon event in the India Spider-Man's world before they even like tell you what a canon event is.
Yeah.
So I think in that moment you're kind of like, oh shit, like what does that mean? And then they a little bit of time later they explain it to you. And but yeah, props to them for explaining all that. And again, that reveal I thought was really cool and awesome. And again, it's half a movie, so very interested to see what happens in the next one.
Yeah, just to touch on the kind of canon event thing, and I think this is a great time to roll over into talking a little bit about the spot.
Hmm.
Uh, I
Yeah.
think they did an excellent job of explaining all of this multiverse stuff, but I think specifically like what you were saying with the Spider-Man India canon event of they did this great thing where before any of this actually came up in the dialogue, you see what the Spot
Hmm.
and Miles see, which is his that kind of vision of Miles's dad turning into Captain Singh from Spider-Man India, turning into Captain
Oh yeah.
Stacy,
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
they run to get this child, and then the child is kind of turning into these different versions, but it's all the same. The captain runs to save the child, and then the building is falling, but it kind of alternates between Captain Stacy, Captain Morales, and Captain Singh. And that's before they explain any of it. So then when
Hmm.
you get to the scene where Captain Singh is running for the kid, you're already, as an audience member, you're clued in that you're like, oh my god, this is what we saw earlier. Um, and then you get, Miguel explaining it, and, I loved the whole thing of, you know, I can do both, so that's Spider-Man's whole thing is, even back to, Sam Raimi, like, you now choose, you can't do both. And when you do, you overextend yourself, you overexert yourself. They even have a funny joke in here about how Spider-Man in all mediums is always doing the thing where he's trying to pull two things together. And they had some sort of a training facility where there was this Spider-Man trying to pull these two weights together, and then everybody ran over him. But
Oh yeah.
I thought that was funny too. But
Yeah.
it really just did a great job of visually showing you what these canon events were, then hinting at it with dialogue, and then giving you the full Miguel explanation of what a canon event is, seeing Andrew Garfield's, so you know that, and I also like that this movie didn't just focus on Uncle Ben as the canon event. It focused on a different one, which is the police captain, which we have seen many times. I mean, we've had a George Stacy in, we haven't had any Stacys in Tom Holland's movies yet. I'm sure that's going to change, but I just thought that everything with that was great, and I do think that they explained it super well. But did you notice the Spider-Verse stuff with all the red and yellow lines and hexagons and everything like that was one thing, but then when Miguel actually was starting to explain the multiverse, it was the exact same display as in Loki and in Quantumania. It was the exact same blue streak with all the tree branching off of it. It was not like, oh, that looks like the one in the MCU. Like, it was the exact same representation of the multiverse that we saw in Loki. So what are your kind of thoughts on that? And then obviously Lord and Miller have talked about in the last couple days that they did have major influence and discussions and work shared with Kevin Feige on this, that they were kind of, they said, Kevin's philosophy is a rising tide, raises all boats or whatever. So clearly they are linking these multiverses together already. So what do you think that could mean for the next one? Do we get Tom? Do we get Andrew? Do we get Toby? What were your kind of whole thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it could. That is what that could mean. And like you said, moving over to the Spot as a villain, he's probably the kind of the catalyst for all that. Do we see some big kind of explosion thing where does this event really kind of mess everything up for both universes or something like that? And I thought, again, they did a really good job of taking is it the Spot or just Spot?
I think it's the Spot.
The Spot. I thought they did a great job of taking the Spot as a villain and kind of obviously having him that background. It's like, you did this to me because I was there that night that the thing exploded, and now I'm this thing with no facial features or anything. And I thought they did a good job of building him up to be more of a threat, because in the beginning I was like, oh, he's just fighting this like villain that he'll dispose of him in 5 minutes and we'll move on. And then to see him kind of more and more throughout the movie growing more and more powerful, I thought that was really cool, to the way that they built him up. And now he seems especially the progression with just his voice and stuff like that, he seems very more and more menacing as you go, and definitely someone worthy of someone being at the center of some big event, like the destroying of different universes and the melding of the two and stuff like that. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I wouldn't be shocked if they wanted to keep it separate, even though they've had all this stuff. They've had all the we see Andrew Garfield in his movie, we see Tobey Maguire in his movie, we see all this stuff, we see Insomniac Spider-Man, we see
Donald Glover.
We haven't talked about Donald Glover. Yeah. So there's all this stuff that it's like, well, clearly we can connect it to the MCU. We have the Venom thing. At the Mrs. Chen. So if they wanted to go into that space, they can. But I think they're fine either way, honestly.
Which, can we talk about for a second that this movie retroactively makes Morbius make sense now? Because when we saw Morbius, we were like, that's not how
Mm.
Doctor Strange's spell works. It's
Right, yeah,
just the
yeah.
people who didn't, or it's just the people who knew who Spider-Man was got sent back to their own universes. Why is MCU Michael Keaton getting scattered in this random universe?
Hmm.
And then this movie answers that immediately by not only answering it, by answering it with the same villain. This movie
Hmm.
opens with a random vulture getting sent to a random universe, which is exactly what
Mm.
happened with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's exactly what they were planning, like,
Yeah.
or if it's just a miraculous happenstance.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't
Probably
make the movie
that
much
one.
better, but
Yeah, but I'm just saying, after
yeah.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Michael Keaton saying, "Not sure why I'm here. Think it has something to do with Spider-Man." Those words are now correct. I
Yeah.
gotta give him props. I gotta give him props. I don't know. I don't know if this is all part of a master plan that they have Mrs. Chen's, shop on a board and Michael Keaton's Vulture on a
Right.
board and Morbius, and they're like, it's all, Amy Pascal is like, it's all gonna, come together. But I do have to say, quick shout out to Amy Pascal, somebody who really, really went through a long, tumultuous time with these Spider-Man movies, almost to the brink of people were, I hate to even use this as an example,
Hmm.
but that, back in 2015, 2016, I mean, people were treating her, like they treat Kathleen Kennedy now.
Hmm.
And, to have her come through that and be like, you know, maybe she's made some mistakes with the Spider-Man franchise and the handling of Andrew and everything like that. But now and I think it helps too that she got her independence with, you see in front of all these Spider-Man movies now, Pascal Pictures. So
Yeah.
she's got her own little wing at Sony. And I think that's given her the freedom to really develop these stuff, because you hear Tom Holland talks about Amy Pascal in such great light now. Kevin Feige always does too. And remember, this is the same lady who in that famous interview was like, well, Venom is gonna inhabit the same world as Spider-Man, and, it will all be connected. And that famous video of Kevin Feige being like,
Yeah.
is it? And it's news to me. So I do think we have to give her and some of the people over at Sony credit for, maybe there is a bigger vision going on here that we just really
Hmm.
can't see yet. But so much to cover in this movie. Let's talk about Donald Glover. So obviously Donald Glover, super big butterfly effect of being the actual inspiration of the creation of the character of Miles Morales, then playing Aaron Davis in Spider-Man Homecoming,
Hmm.
and then obviously coming back now in this movie as I would say, extended cameo, because he's got, I think, 2 or 3 scenes and multiple
Hmm.
lines of dialogue. So, I mean, he's definitely not like a blink and you'll miss it thing,
Right.
but he is definitely, in the movie in more than one scene. Uh, what were your thoughts on this? How do you feel like it looked with the live action mixed with the animation? And I think more importantly, is this a direct MCU connection of, do we think that this is the Aaron Davis that we saw in Homecoming, or do we think this is just a one-off, never going to come up again,
Right.
whatever? Because I think it is worth mentioning, I mean, they built a full suit. Like, it is a
Oh
actual
yeah.
on-set
Hmm.
suit, and I don't know, I would think maybe you wouldn't just do that for a, minute of screen time. But
Right.
what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I didn't know about the whole kind of Donald Glover for Spider-Man movement that happened back in the day. Danielle made me aware of that, and that kind of just adds to the whole cameo. When I first saw him, I immediately thought, "Oh, this is them paying off the whole Homecoming thing that they did nothing with until right now." And I took it as a maybe like, oh, here's this thing we're gonna do, and we're gonna pay it off now, and we're never gonna do it again, or something like that. Like, here it is. Like, you got him back. Here he
Yeah.
is, Prowler, done. All right,
Almost
check
like
the
a
box.
Krasinski as Richard situation.
Right, exactly. And is it possible maybe that he shows up in another movie or something like that? That's very much a possibility. But I definitely think it was him from Homecoming. I don't think it was him
Okay, so
from.
you do think it was?
Yes, I do. Just because, again, it's something they already had in place. They've laid the groundwork for it. Now they just kind of have to come through with it, and to me that makes the most sense. But it was really cool to see. That I didn't, that was not spoiled. It was not leaked as far as I know,
same.
or anything that I saw. So that was really cool to see, and just to hear like the whole kind of, obviously Homecoming, but the background information on from the 2012 campaign of him trying to be Miles, and the community episodes and stuff like that was really cool.
And not only that, but then you have Aaron Davis in Into the Spider-Verse watching Donald Glover in that episode of Community.
Right, which I didn't even know that. I saw it on TikTok.
It's like they were really cooking with something.
To speak to the animation and kind of live action mesh, I thought it looked great for me. Maybe it's because he's just sitting there, not doing anything, and he's just kind of talking. But to me, it looked really good.
Yeah, my one friend said that it kind of was a little jarring because of, I think, a scaling issue. But I think that was more just about a foreground background thing. Because, I mean, it's Miles walking through that place, and Donald's kind of right up to the camera. He's kind of, he's a little bit in front of Miles. But I liked that Hobie Brown Spider-Punk, he was like, oh yeah, I caught that one myself. I thought that was a nice little nod there. But I'll be honest, this whole time I really never I never thought it was the actual MCU Donald Glover. But I think you've convinced me, because I mean, what would happen if Donald Glover came into a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie? He would is he going to be the same guy from a decade ago that was, buying tech out of the back of a van, wearing a t-shirt? Or is he going to have developed and moved on? You know what I mean? So I think either way, if they were ever going to bring Donald Glover back in a meaningful way in one of Tom's movies, I think he probably would already be the Prowler. And then it's just a one line of, had a couple upgrades since the last time I saw you, haven't I? So I feel like this is almost a way to just kind of do that for us. You know what I mean? And just kind of now, if he does pop up in one of Tom's movies in this outfit, you're not going to be going, whoa, wait, how did that happen? You could just go, well, it's been 8 years since Homecoming. Or you could say, well, they explained it in Spider-Verse. You know what I mean? You kind of have two different explanations there. So I think I've come around. I do think, and I hope it was actually the Homecoming version, because then we can just kind of pick up with that character. And clearly he was waiting in line to be sent back to his home universe. So I'm assuming he made it back eventually to the MCU. But yeah, super awesome cameo. Everything like that. But let's on the topic of cameos. How did you like that they, not new footage with Toby and Andrew, but how they kind of incorporated their archival footage from their movies into this? Because I thought they did it really, really well. And specifically, the fact that they took the live-action footage of Andrew with Dennis Leary's Captain Stacy and then animated all the other Spider-Men with their police captains to be in those same positions, so that when they show that big lineup, they all match with Andrew standing over Captain Stacy. I thought that was really, really cool, because they did the same thing with Uncle Ben, where they're all like holding his hand, whereas with Andrew Garfield, it's more like he's like holding his shoulder and like standing over him. But what did you think about how they were used?
Yeah, I thought that it all looked great. For some reason, when they showed Andrew, I could not place him. I was like, I couldn't tell that was him for some reason. I don't know if it was where I was or what the deal was, but like after I was like, oh that was Andrew Garfield or whatever.
It is over a decade ago, so he's like 12.
Maybe that's what. Maybe that could have been it. But no, I thought that was all cool how they kind of had to, they like you said, they have all these different shots when Oscar Isaac is explaining it, and you know we have all these different kind of animations, whether it be live action, whether it be different types of animation, or like just like a comic panel or something like that. Like it's all there, and it all looks fantastic. It all works together, seamlessly, and from what I could tell. Um, since we haven't talked about it, I want to talk about like Gwen and her kind of
Yeah.
story and her relationship with her dad. What did you think about all that? Um,
I thought okay. I thought, and I want to touch on her expanded backstory in this too, because in the first movie, she
mhm,
goes, lost my best friend, and that's it. It's like one shot
mhm,
of Peter dying in her arms, and in the first movie, she just like got in a fight with my dad, lost my best friend, got
mhm.
this, got that. Like it's just one little brief thing, but here we get that like 10, almost 15 minutes with her version of Peter, who's
Right.
played by Jack Quaid from The Boys,
Oh,
which
okay.
was awesome.
Got it.
Um,
Yeah.
but his whole kind of lizard situation and story, I thought it was fantastic. So going back to the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I think one of the best relationships in both of those movies, which is saying a lot because he dies in the first one, is
Hmm.
Peter and Captain Stacy, because that's really kind of the relationship that gets the focus in those two movies more so than Uncle Ben and Peter, because then you also get Captain Stacy kind of haunting Peter in Amazing Spider-Man 2, because his whole thing was leave Gwen out of this. And a
Uh-huh.
lot of Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the fact that Peter just can't bring himself to do that. He just can't bring himself to cut Gwen out of his life.
Hmm.
And that being said, I think that Captain Stacy in this movie is like top 5 characters for me. And I'm not seeing a lot of people give him the love and appreciation I think that he needs, because everything that he does in that first 20-25 minutes, because it is like 20-25 minutes until we get to Miles. It is a lot in Gwen's
Hmm.
universe at the top, because then that whole Vulture fight is in Gwen's universe, everything like that.
Right. Yep.
uh, and just the beautiful watercolors that they use, obviously all of the trans flag imagery, which people have speculated, and I don't think that they've commented one way or another, is that potentially Gwen herself could be trans in this universe.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's very interesting, because a lot of her universe does have the trans flag colors, and she has trans kids, protect trans kids, signage in her room and everything. And Captain Stacy has a trans, what do you call it, like pin on his
Hmm.
police uniform. So I think that's an interesting wrinkle to it, but also an interesting wrinkle to the watercolors being specifically those colors, but then also the watercolors representing Captain Stacy's emotions, like when
Hmm.
Gwen goes to hug him, and they kind of have that great scene where he's in her doorway, she's rifling through her bag, and he's just, oh, I think we, maybe got a breakthrough in the Spider-Woman case, and
Right.
she's
Yeah.
like, okay, great. And then as soon as, because it's like, I don't want to deal with you when you're talking about this. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like I don't want to interact with you when you're hyper fixated on me, on Spider-Woman. And then as soon as he starts to say, you know, any chance you could have a hug for your old, like, is before he even finishes
Yeah.
the sentence, she like darts over to the room and hugs him, and then like this bright red light just comes from both of them. And I thought all that was beautiful. And I've heard the criticism of this movie of nothing is resolved, that this movie is obviously a part one, so you expect there to be
Hmm.
cliffhangers, but that nothing is resolved. And I even fought back, and I even changed one of my friends' minds, because really the main thing that's resolved in this movie is the relationship between Gwen and her father. That's what we
Hmm.
start the movie with, and by the end of the movie, he has accepted her as Spider-Woman. He can't continue being a police captain because he just can't reconcile those two things. But the important thing is, even if he can't reconcile those two things, he chose his daughter over, this
Yeah.
this this police department
Yeah.
that, means everything to him, but it just shows how much more his daughter means to him. I thought that was fantastic. And then, like I said, by the end of it, she's able to openly be herself around him, to the point where, you know, now she feels the confidence that she wants to not only go out and form this team that we get this tease at the end of the movie of Spider-Punk, all the people from the first movie, Spider-Man India, this kind of team to go get Miles, essentially. But also, more importantly, when Miles is confiding in Gwen of, I want to tell my parents, but I don't know if I should, and she just goes, trust me, don't.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Gwen and her dad's relationship is repaired
Yeah.
really is the reason. Yeah, it's the reason that Gwen is able to talk to his parents directly. That beautiful scene at the end where Gwen comes out of Miles's room and is like, you know, you guys mean everything to him because you taught him how to see the world. Like, she does a complete 180 on parents and parental figures in her life. And this is somebody who, again, another really kind of somber moment of the movie that kind of just gets looked over is Miles goes, wait, Gwen, your dad's a police captain. And she just goes, yeah, I know. Like, so she's already, like, accepted the whole canon event thing, and she's just accepted the fact that her dad has to die. And that's why when he says that he quits, it's so much more emotional.
It's more of a relief, yeah.
Because he's not a captain anymore. So he's not going to be the one that dies. So the fact that they just, like, in a movie about Miles Morales, like you brought up, I'm so glad you brought this up because we really hadn't touched on the Gwen stuff. The fact that Gwen Stacy and her dad have this almost movie in itself of relationship and, you know, reconciliation at the end, I thought was just beautiful. And I think that's probably my favorite part of this movie, to be honest, is Gwen and her dad's relationship. But I rambled. I don't even know how I just got all that out without my throat collapsing.
Yeah.
But what were your thoughts on Gwen and her dad and kind of that through line throughout this movie?
Yeah, I feel like maybe one of the toughest parts in the movie for me was just, and not like, oh man, this is boring or whatever, but more emotional is when, I don't know if it's when it must be when she reveals that who she is and that she is Spider-Woman, and he continues to like read her the Miranda rights.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, like he, you know, he's more, and it gives you this sense of like, again, he's battling between like my daughter and my job that I love, and I'm trying to protect people, but in order to kind of, it's just this big kind of fight that you see that he's having. And he has to come to terms with which one does he want more, I guess.
And you know what really bolsters all the emotion is it's just these quick shots, but you see that kind of a family unit was formed with Aunt May, Captain Stacy, Gwen, and Peter. Because you see them, these really quick shots, but you see them at Easter, at Christmas, at Thanksgiving. So, like, they were this little unit, and I feel like in the first 10 minutes of the movie, you believe that, like, Captain Stacy is so upset over the death of Peter because he viewed Peter like as a son, basically. You know what I mean? Like, and that's all just done with these quick shots. So I thought that was fantastic too. I never once was like, I get that they were friends, but why does this guy care about Peter Parker so much? Like I never once felt that. I immediately bought that.
I mean, you saw it when he rushes in after he's like dead.
Yeah.
When he rushes in, and you know he's very clearly very worried about Peter in that moment, and you know I think that carries over later. You know when he's talking about like, oh, you know, like you said, like, oh, you know, we might have a break in the case or whatever, and obviously she's like, well, one, I don't want you to talk about it because, you know, I'm Spider-Woman, but also like in your head, you think I killed him, but like. I obviously, you know, I didn't, but how can I make you see that I, you know, I think that all just works very well. Again, I think what it was, and I don't know if the dialogue or the volume of the dialogue should be a factor in it for me, but it really just kind of took me out of it in the beginning. And
No, I
maybe
think
I would
that's
have been
fair.
more maybe I would have been more engaged had I been able to understand what was going on. Um what else? What do we want to talk about Miguel, right? It's Oscar
Oh
Isaac?
yeah, let's go
That was his
for it.
name?
Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099.
How
Oscar
about
Isaac
that theme?
himself.
I mean, that
I
is
know.
very. It's. Am I correct in saying it's Prowler-esque from the
Oh
first
yeah,
one? Okay.
because Prowler's just more like. This
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's got that kind of like eerie, like really interesting, like screeching sound almost.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, Oscar Isaac, so good in this. Um, Believable as a villain, believable
Oh,
in his
agreed. Yep.
motivations, but also I love that he is partially responsible for all this going to shit as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it also I think they did a great job with these because whether this is going to tie directly into the MCU or not, this idea of an incursion, that's what we're talking about here when
Hmm.
the black thing when Hobie says, when they're like, "What is that?" and Hobie goes, "It's a metaphor for capitalism." Hilarious joke, but also
Yeah.
where else have we seen that black goo
Hmm.
overtaking universes? Multiverse of Madness and What If? We that exact same black goo we've seen in both of those shows with Doctor Strange. Uh, Particularly, I think this movie ties particularly strongly with the Doctor Strange episode of What If, because
Hmm.
that episode is about essentially you could call a canon event a what does the Watcher call it an absolute point in time. Christine's
Hmm.
or not Christine's death, but either Christine's death or his hands,
Or his
right?
hands. Yeah.
So basically, that whole episode of What If is him trying to get around this canon event or absolute point in time, which I'll be interested to know if maybe in a What If season 2, if maybe the Watcher starts to use the terminology canon event.
Hmm.
Just to kind of keep things a little copacetic. I think
Yeah.
that could very easily be done just to basically make it as easy as possible for audiences to understand all this stuff. But then you go to Multiverse of Madness and Reed Richards saying an incursion is when the boundaries between two worlds erode so much that it destroys either one or both of them in the process. And that's exactly what Spider-Man 2099 did by going into that universe and trying to take his other version's place in a place that he never should have been.
Hmm.
So he, just like kind of Doctor Strange that we saw in Multiverse of Madness, of him being in those other universes for far too long, and particularly him inhabiting the zombie version of himself, we know that that was about to cause catastrophe. So I thought that was really, really awesome. And the fact that Miguel is like, yes, I want Miles to stop doing this, but I want him to stop doing it because I know what I almost caused. I basically did cause the, you know, uh, what's the word? Like decimation of this one universe, essentially.
Hmm.
And so he's kind of taking that Kang, more so He Who Remains role of I need to be the one to keep balance because I know what happens when balance
Hmm.
isn't kept. But I think a big question that we're going to have, and I think to wrap up here, I want your thoughts on 2099 and everything, but to wrap up here, um, I think that's a big question that we have going into this final part is he right? He thinks that
Yeah.
if Miles does all this stuff, the universe and the multiverse is going to unravel. But how do you know that's going to happen
Right.
until you let Miles, as he says, do his own thing? So what are your kind of thoughts on 2099 and kind of where we could go with Beyond the Spider-Verse and Miles kind of forging his own kind of path?
Um. Yeah, I thought Oscar Isaac doing the voice, I thought his voice, he was very, very good switching between the whole kind of menacing, and I wouldn't say he's like necessarily kind of, I wouldn't say he's necessarily nice in this movie, but when he's able to switch, like kind of talking about, his daughter and his family that he had, that he kind of took the place of
Yeah.
the former Spider-Man that was there. and how he switches between those two is really good. But yeah, I'm very interested to see, like you, like how this, you know, is that at this point he has a proven track record of this needs to happen in every single one of them, because I showed you that if it doesn't, then it gets messed up.
Yeah.
So, how do you, I don't even know how you show that. Do you get in like some time machine and go to the future? I don't know. That's what we're going to find out in the next one. But I will be very interested to see how they kind of weave that web, no pun intended, how that works.
Madam Web.
Yeah, Madam Web. And this just got me thinking too, like, we have all these things going on. We're talking about the connection to the MCU possibly. We have Venom and all that other stuff. Like, we see, and I'm just thinking this because it's coming out, this year, and I see it on the stream you're showing me. Does this connect to Insomniac Spider-Man in some way? Do we get some of this story added into the game in some way, shape, or form? Is it, do they want to go that far with it where it's like, well, to, get a little bit more of a hint of where we're going, you're going to have to play the game or something,
Yeah.
Which would be very interesting. Obviously that universe has a Miles as well. Is that all connected in some way? Which would be really, that'd be really cool to see. Oh my God, I had something else I was going to say. I forgot. But no, yeah. Again, Oscar. Everybody's great in this movie, but Oscar Isaac as Miguel was awesome. But one thing I did want to touch on. What did you think of the send home machine? Was that not fucking creepy? That spider that like crawls out of the hole.
Yeah, that was really. It was
something. Like, this is very unsettling. I do not like this.
First of all, I think they did a really good job of the first time you see that machine in action. That it is kind of. I think it's they're sending back a rhino, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Like the rhino is kind of scared. Like it's like this kind of very inhumane thing, and it's kind of funny, creepy when it's the rhino, but then it's very unsettling when Miles goes in it, and then it's even more the most unsettling when he puts Gwen in it. Because Miles wanted to go, Gwen was literally forced into it, which I thought was really, really messed up, and I thought they did a great job to do that. A couple other people that we have not touched on. Amanda Lestenberg as Spider-Bite, she was the AI I thought she had some great little moments in there, helping out Miles, making that decision to let Miles go back, even though technically he ended up going to the wrong place, but to help him out a little bit there. Another person I thought, Issa Rae as Jessica Drew, was fantastic. Not too much.
Maybe a little bit
here.
More.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not too much to do, but I do think they set her up as an interesting launching pad for the next movie, because she's a really good character that's set up of, yes, she's kind of 2099, or I don't know why I keep calling her 2099, Miguel's right-hand woman, but she has that moment where Gwen says right before she gets sent back, I thought we were supposed to be the good guys, and then they just cut to Jessica's face and the emotions on that, and we know she's talked about, she has a family, she has a husband, we obviously know she just recently gave birth, so she's got a little kid at home. Speaking of a little kid at home, Peter B. Parker, I thought absolutely fantastic again in this movie. Jake Johnson, incredible again. I love Dad Peter Parker, and I love all that stuff. I really hope that they give him a shot to fully suit up and like really be the definitive Peter Parker of this trilogy in the next movie. Not, again, if they don't, that's totally fine. I would just love an epic moment like that, where he fully suits up and is like, no more bathrobe, no more sweatpants, just full on a Spider-Man for him. But I also really loved Mayday as a character too, and particularly like when he would make Miguel, some of Miguel's lighter moments, like he would give Mayday to Miguel, and then Miguel would just slowly try to hand her back to Peter. Like,
Mhm.
he just didn't want to hold her. Or even stuff like, again, Oscar Isaac's so good. Like, when Peter B. Park, when he's like, no, you stay here. I've had exactly enough of you today. Like, I've had the
Mhm.
exact right amount of you today. And then another guy too, I thought Ben Reilly, Andy Samberg,
Yep.
really hamming it up as
Mhm.
as the clone of Peter Parker there, really feeling himself in his emo vibes. But again, I thought that he, give him some more to do as Miguel's kind of right hand man in the next movie. But also, I thought, kind of a joke character. But then at the end, he did kind of have an important bit, which is, he was guarding Miles's house, and then Gwen takes him out and takes his bracelet. So where does that leave him? She just
Mhm.
kind of kicks him back through the portal. But where did he go? Is he lost, or is he going to be back, or what's going to be going on? Uh, so I thought even some of the supporting people, and then obviously right at the end, you get Gwen assembling that team where you have everybody from the first movie back. So you got John Mulaney as Spider Ham. You got Nicolas Cage as Spider Man Noir. Penny Parker, who also Penny Parker, she was in the movie a little bit before that, where she, I liked that it, like, when everybody was having that moment of everybody was like circling Miles, being like, this is the
Mhm.
way it has to be. And then you kind of hear Penny's voice, and Miles turns and is like, Penny? Like, even you're
Mhm.
part of this? Like, it was kind of eerie to have a familiar face part of this
Right.
essentially cult, really, is what kind of the movie treats it like. But then to see that, she kind of breaks out of that and is Team Miles by the end of it as well.
Mhm.
But I really like that super tiny, like literally one line moment with Penny, where it's
Mhm.
like, in kind of this sea of everybody telling him this is the way it has to be, to hear that voice of this person who teamed up with Miles and taught Miles what it means to be a spider person, to be a part of that, I thought was great. And then any thoughts on Spectacular Spider-Man making a little cameo there, little guy, little Disney XD guy rocking up in the joint?
I did think that was funny. I did like to see actually the one that is like hold it like you said, is kind of doing the training where he's like holding the two things together.
Yeah.
That looks like a video game one, correct? Like one of the old games. He was very
I don't remember
polygonish,
what he
I
looked
thought.
like, but I mean, it very well could have been. It could have been like the
Yeah.
Fractured Dimensions
I mean,
games or
there's some
something
like the
like
T
that.
Rex one. I got a good kick out
Oh
of.
no, the horse and the cowboy,
Yes, the
when
horse.
the
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where it was Miles, the cowboy, and then the horse, and he was
Mhm.
like, on three,
Yeah.
one, and Miles just hits him in the face, and he goes, "You didn't say three." That was so funny. Uh, and then let's just end off here. That moment, that's in the trailers, but one of the most
Mhm.
epic moments of the movie, uh, the train confrontation, where Miguel is like really,
Mhm.
really going after Miles. And then the whole, I'm gonna do my own thing. What were your kind of thoughts on that whole situation? And then also in that moment too, that's when Peter B. Parker goes, Miguel, this isn't what we agreed on. And then that kind of moment of betrayal where Miles realizes that everybody else knew
Yeah.
about this and was kind of keeping it from him.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's obviously like a big part. I feel like, that was this movie's jumping off the building with the glass kind of behind him moment,
Yeah,
with
that's
that
a
we got in the
danger.
first
Yeah.
one. Um, which was really cool. And again, like, in Miguel's eyes, he is the good guy. They are doing what he's doing what he thinks he needs to do in order to keep everything, the same and running smoothly. And I thought that was a really, great scene just of, I'm not going to do what you're telling me to do. I'm not gonna do what everybody else has done up to this point. I'm gonna go and do my own thing, and you know, do what Spider-Man's supposed to do, and is try to save people and all that stuff. I thought that was a really great moment, and doesn't he like jumps off and he like just like fly. I forget
Yeah,
like
it's
what
kind
the
of the
actual action
reverse.
is.
It's
Yeah.
kind of the reverse of the what's up danger thing because he jumps. So to keep perspective, it's like the ground, and it
Right.
seems to be like a less of a
Like the
train, more of
train
like
is
a
like
space elevator because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
going
yeah.
straight up.
Right.
And I think what it is Miles kind of stands like this and then does a leap off of it, and then
Hmm.
he dives back
Past
down,
all
but the
the other
camera
yeah.
is flipped, so it looks like he's shooting up, but he's actually
Oh,
shooting
okay.
down to get
Yeah.
back to the facility because that's when he puts himself in the machine.
Right, in the machine, yeah.
Yeah. But so again, kind of really, and a lot of people have said, how come we can't get shots like this in live action? Which I think is going to change. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't have. It's one thing to be like, oh, the first Spider-Verse, it was so inventive of how it showed
Hmm.
the web swinging and how it showed Spider-Man. But then it's kind of like, well, the movies John Watts kind of already established the vision. I think with this new
Hmm.
Spider-Man trilogy, I think you have a shot to really, because a lot of those Spider-Man movies, I mean, they do seem like big, open things. But I think we saw a lot of hope at the end of No Way Home with that new
Hmm.
suit, him swinging through Rockefeller Center in the wintertime with the Christmas tree and everything. I thought that final swing in No Way Home of like Peter is now on his own, living in this apartment. I think they really set themselves up for a big tonal shift for Tom's
Hmm.
movies, and I hope that they take full advantage of that and try to bring over some of these incredible visuals. Even just the stuff of like when Gwen and Miles walk around that thing and then New York like flips.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that would be
Hmm.
something that would be awesome to see
Hmm.
in I almost said No Way Home 2, but that's not what that is. In Spider-Man 4 and so on. But yeah, I mean, absolutely incredible movie. Again, for me, on initial viewing, I still would put the first one above it. But I'm
Same.
definitely going to see this
We didn't
again.
we didn't even talk about his parents.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Uh, fantastic. I love that this movie, the first movie, really focused on him and his father. So I like
Mhm.
that this movie more so
This one is
focused on him
mom.
and his
Yep.
mother
I
and their
love the when
relationship.
they're in the office and they're listing his grades like, oh, A in physics, A in this stuff, and then he's like B plus in Spanish, and she was like, what?
Yeah, I
I
really
thought that
thought
was really
Brian
funny.
Tyree Henry as his dad really got more of a chance to really
Right.
shine on his stuff too because he was just like, oh man, I don't know what
Yeah.
you're thinking. Like, I thought that was really really funny, but
Yeah.
really like touching, caring stuff too, with everything in this movie, and I think parentage is a big theme in this. I mean, Miguel
Hmm.
almost destroyed an entire existence because he wanted to to have a family, to be a parent. Jessica Drew, being pregnant and then
Hmm.
giving birth. Peter with Mayday of Miles, you're the reason that I wanted to be a father, which I think also
Hmm.
could come up because if Miles is an anomaly who should never have existed, but Miles is the reason that Peter had a kid and got back with MJ, wouldn't that mean that Mayday is also an anomaly? Like, what's the butterfly effect of this? So
Hmm.
I think you could also see maybe in the next movie, Peter use that and say, if Miles isn't supposed to be here, then you're telling me that my daughter's not supposed to be here. I think we
Right.
could very easily see a scene like that kind of because I don't think they're gonna like kill Miguel or like put him
No.
in jail or something. It's
Yeah.
gonna be them convincing him, hey, this is not the way to do
To
this.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I think that'll be very, very interesting. But yeah, I loved everything with his parents in this as well. But so much to dive into because it really is
Yeah.
such a big
It's a
movie to
very
unpack.
large
But
movie.
yeah. But guys, let us know, what did you think of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Let us know that and more in the comments down below. What you thought of it, what some of your favorite cameos were, what some of your favorite story beats, story elements were. How did you feel about Gwen's whole kind of story arc in this movie? Do you think that was a satisfying conclusion, or do you think this movie kind of left you extra wanting for more? Let us know all that down below. So if you guys are just joining us for the Spider-Man review, thank you guys so much. Make sure you subscribe while you're down there. Thank you for joining us for the review. which I just finished that clip out and it was exactly an hour. So
Wow.
yeah, longer than I thought. I don't know how
last quick question for you, real quick. Did you hate watch The Idol?
No, I did not. Did you?
No. Okay. No, I didn't. I was wondering.
Yeah, I did. I did not as well. But hopefully I will not. But I know Jeff Snyder is being very vocal about it on Twitter, saying that it is better than Succession, which typical Snyder fashion, just kind of losing his mind. But guys, thank you guys so much for going through this. I don't know, my voice in my head sounds like I'm turning into Charlie Day. By talking,
it does sound like that.
But my brother Mario and thank you guys so much for joining us here. I'm gonna try and let my vocal cords recover. I am going to try and get as much of this edited and put up there as I can. I might even piece out the Gwen Stacy and her dad thing by itself, just because I think that was a really great part of our conversation here. But guys, let us know what you thought of Spider-Verse, what you thought of the Captain America 4 news. Do you agree with Chris Hemsworth about where the MCU is at right now, and that maybe it's kind of better to take a little bit of a step back, lower the scale on some of these individual stories and stuff like that? What are your thoughts? Who do you think the Inquisitor is in Ahsoka? Let us know all that and more. So that will do it for me. I've been one of your co-hosts tonight, Sean Monk.
I've been another host, TJ Cornwell. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought about any of the topics below. Thank you for checking out our video, as well as checking out our reviews and reactions on the channel as well. We will see you next time.
Boom.